My experiences with sexual assault. For a long time, I didn't know how to talk about what happened to me. I spent years questioning my memories, blaming myself, and wondering whether I was overreacting. It took a long time before I understood that what happened to me was not my fault. Looking back now, I realize that both experiences had a profound impact on my life, even when I didn't fully understand them at the time. The first incident. I was only 11 years old and in the 5th grade when it happened. At that age, I was naive and trusted people easily. I had a boyfriend who was older than me. We usually spent time with our friends, and we were rarely alone together. Because of that, I never felt unsafe around him. One night, our group of friends went out together. Everyone was drinking alcohol. I was far too young to understand the consequences, and by the end of the night I was extremely intoxicated. I could barely stay awake and was in no condition to go home safely. My boyfriend offered to let me stay at his house for the night. I trusted him completely and agreed, believing I would simply sleep there until morning. I made it clear that I wanted to sleep separately. When we arrived, I felt exhausted and disoriented. Everything seemed blurry. I remember trying to stay awake, but I could barely focus on what was happening around me. As the night continued, I became increasingly uncomfortable. I tried to create distance, but my attempts were ignored. I remember feeling confused and powerless. My body felt heavy, and my mind struggled to process what was happening. I told him to stop. I remember saying those words. But he didn't listen. I felt frozen, fear took over, and I became unable to react the way I wanted to. Everything happened so quickly that I could barely understand what was going on. Later, I remember lying awake and crying. I felt scared, confused, and ashamed. Deep down, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't have the knowledge or vocabulary to explain it. I had never received proper sexual education. Nobody had taught me about consent, boundaries, or abuse. Because of that, I spent years carrying the memory without fully understanding it. As I grew older and learned more about consent, I slowly began to realize the truth. I had been a child who was vulnerable, intoxicated, and incapable of giving meaningful consent. Someone I trusted had taken advantage of that vulnerability. That realization was painful. It shattered many of the excuses I had made for what happened. But it also helped me understand that the blame did not belong to me. The second incident. The second experience happened several years later. I was at a bar one evening and ended up meeting a group of people. We clicked immediately and spent hours talking, laughing, and drinking together. Among the group was a man I found attractive. Throughout the evening we flirted and talked. I felt comfortable around him and believed he was someone I could trust. At one point, I went to the bathroom. A short time later, he followed me. At first, I didn't think much of it. However, the situation quickly changed. The moment I wanted to leave, I realized something was wrong. Suddenly, I felt trapped. The atmosphere shifted from friendly to frightening in an instant. I felt my heart racing as fear began to take over. I remember freezing. Many people imagine that during a dangerous situation they would immediately fight back or run away, but trauma doesn't always work that way. Sometimes the body responds by shutting down. That is what happened to me. I felt powerless and disconnected from myself. My thoughts became scattered, and I struggled to process what was happening. I knew I wanted to leave, but fear seemed to lock my body in place. In those moments, memories of my previous assault came flooding back. The same feelings of helplessness and terror returned. Eventually, something inside me pushed through the fear. I found the strength to break away and escape. As soon as I could, I grabbed my belongings and left. I didn't stop to explain. I didn't look back. I just wanted to get somewhere safe. The aftermath. The assaults didn't end when the incidents were over. For years, I carried emotional wounds that nobody could see. I struggled with trust. I questioned my own memories. I replayed both experiences in my mind countless times, wondering if there was something I could have done differently. There were moments when I blamed myself. There were moments when I felt angry, numb, confused, or completely broken. Healing was not a straight path. Some days were easier than others. Some memories felt impossible to face. But over time, I began to understand that surviving trauma does not make someone weak. It means they endured something painful and kept moving forward. Today, I I share my story because I know there are other survivors who feel alone. If there is one thing I have learned, it is this: consent matters. Boundaries matter. And no one has the right to take those choices away from another person. What happened to me is part of my story, but it does not define who I am. I am more than my trauma. I am more than my pain, and I am still here.